Now, I've spent a few days thinking about this and I'm not happy with it here, and partly the reason is because how it works. And the thing is, on this line here in the picture, it curves down here, but I think it just needs a slightly more angle. You know, it's very hard to work the angle out from a photograph, if you look, and that's what you're up against, is you're trying to work just from a picture, and I think my angle is just a real little bit off, and also it looks too long in the front. Too long in the front. Now the reasons for that, if I can find the right picture, expand it. Here's the picture. If you can see, there's these curved bits which are plated on the side, or part of, and they fit onto this centre section, which is right raised up in the middle where there's like a grill. So what I think I've got to do is cut a section out in the centre to lower it, and then build in the part afterwards with the radiator. But this is the hard problems you hit with trying to scratch build. So for now I'm going to recut all the front and the side, but like I said, I might change the angle very slightly here, and then it's got to be, this picture don't show it, but this picture, for some reason it don't want to expand. There we go. If you can look down here, you can just about see there's a slight curve down there. So my guess is, on the cardboard one, the door's going to be about here, so it's going to be there. But like I said, I'm going to now start chop up the cardboard to get it as near as I can. But this is the problem with scratch building, where you haven't got plans or anything and you're making it up as you go along. You will run into multiple problems. Now, I've been enlarging a couple of pictures, and I've just been enlarging this one, where I noticed it's square here roughly, and then it angles there. So what I've done is, I have, where I had the angle, I've squared it off to give the more accurate shape, cut out the piece in the bottom, because the radiator will be here roughly, and there'll be a roll there and the vented bit underneath, so that is correct. So the radiator will be up to about there, built into these front curved out bulbous bits. And then on the front, what I've done is I've marked a point and I've curved it, but this angle has been slightly, the thing is, this angle here was correct but not at this point. So instead of cutting this, recutting that one, I left this angle to just do the curve and then recut it here. It's now more accurate, so I'm now going to try and tape it all together into one piece. There you go. To you will not see quite as much difference as what I can, but it's got that reformed part, and like I said, the part that goes on here, even though it comes out here, most of it is on here. So I'm quite happy with that, I've got the main basic former, and these cards, once they're cut apart again, will be my templates. I will slightly widen the hole at the back so it gives me adjustability, because I'm going to bolt it to the rear bed in design, and then find probably another way of securing it at the front later on. As you can see, I've moved a piece of cardboard over. Great thing doing this in card, because you want to do this with sheets of plastic. It gets very expensive very fast. But we seem to have it pretty well centered now. I'm pretty happy with that. But I will recheck a bit more the back panel with a ruler before I cut it. Because what it is, it doesn't fit exactly square. Because even though I'm fitting to the chassis rail side here, we're hitting the motor this side. So it has to be slightly off anyway. So now the scary bit is start cutting plastic and slightly taping that together, because the plastic has to have a lot more cutting, and I've got to decide how I'm going to do it, because I'm still in two minds, I'll be truthful, because I've got to round off the roof, and that is the height for the roof's going to be. It's going to be no higher than that, and the window line is about there. It's not a huge much, and the windows go in there. But then I've got to try and work out the line upwards, because the windows slightly go up in the middle. Now the first cut, and we've got to be brave. What I'm going to do is use the cab piece here for the main depth, because we know that it will be correct. And even though I've made two sides, the important thing is just use one until you're happy, because you never know, one side might be off. Right, that's for the front and rear. We'll just break it. There we go, that's one. And now we repeat it for the two sides, because one part of the side will be that length. So again, using the same piece of cardboard. We will get another cut in. There we go. Do your first cut light, I find, with plastic. And you can repeat. Because once you've got a couple of lines, you've got something to follow, it will snap. So there we go, we've got two identical pieces, and I'm pretty pleased with them. So next we want to make the rear, which is this piece, and I'm going to pick, there's one end slightly better than the other, so make a pick. We can change rulers now, we don't need quite a long one. And again, clear off the paper. Or the tape, because we know this is going to be a rectangle, so that's not a problem. Lay it down to check. Might use the bottom, might be more accurate. Like I said, measure again as many times as you like, if you want this correct. Once, two, three. And there we go, we've got a rear panel already. Now I've got to cut out a slot for clearance. And what I'm going to do is, I think this is roughly, it's not going to be even, is it? No, it's not. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the 2 marks I've got. Let's tilt this down so you can see. I'm going to see that one's slightly different, so what I'm going to do is mark the first one, because I squared that off, and then this one, which is slightly off, I'll put the square on it. I can always trim it more afterwards. So we've got our 2 lines. Then we'll mark it with the square. If you use black pen like this, don't worry, you can clean it off with a bit of alcohol. And you have to clean it off because otherwise it will come through the paint. And then the measurement 70. Run a line. Didn't go long enough on those lines, so we just extend them. And that should give us enough clearance on the cab. And what I'm going to do is put a little F here, so we know it's front. And then to cut the lines, I've used the square again. That's why you go past with your line, so you can got a start. And then across the top, and we'll run it back the other way. And then we should be able to snap it out. There we go, and that should fit nicely, I hope. Over this. So it can fit as low as a height or as high as I need it. Might need a bit more trimming. Yeah, it needs a bit more off the right. It's definitely the pesky motor. So then all you do is remark it. Like I said, it's hit and miss a lot, this, on this stage. But as this is not going to be seen, it's not really a problem. This one, no, I better do that. See, what the problem is keeping it nice to cut. This is the trouble, you can't purchase properly on the thing. If you can get a couple of lines in, then just go by hand. This you won't be able to snap with these, so use pliers. Just trimming gently in the corners. And now we should be able to centralise it. Yep. Whatever it is, I've got clearance either side, so it can fit in there nicely. I've marked out the two cab lines using just, like I said, the one side. So we've got the down and the curve, and then we've got to put the angle on at the top. So these should, in theory, just snap out. And hopefully not too bad. Need a bit of blocking, but here. But once they're taped together and they're sanded up, they'll be not too far off. So that's the two sides. But now we've got to cut the angle at the top, trim it here, and do the curve, which is a lot harder. But the way I do the curve, I'm not going to show you in case I need to concentrate, I can't talk and do it, I'm going to be truthful, is I will cut the top angle first, tape this on, and I will literally gently go round with the knife to that curve. Now I've taped them really well together, and I'm just going to lightly straighten it up at the top. And then I'll put other tape on, then I'll remove the tape from each section and keep retaping it until see, it goes slightly off, but I can bring it into shape now. There you go. I slowly added more tape and took tape away to work my way around where I wanted to smooth it up a bit. But that gives us two sides now. And though these are accurate, I'm still going to mark them left and right. So that will be, I'll do it in the area. This will be right, that will be left. So we've got them marked. Now on to the scary bit. Is the wheel arch. There you go, I've roughly cut it out. I've got it taped. The inner panels have got to go inwards on the back, but I've left them like that for the moment because it's just like a tape together, so it's all over the place at the moment. Next we've got to cut out windows on it, and then we can start the job of actually making it into one piece. Once it's into one piece, then we can add a roof and structure and then try and start to curve it. The thing is, the whole roof has a full curve on it, and I'm in two minds how to do it. Whether to put an inner piece of plastic which holds it all in shape and then weld a bit on top, and then maybe and then some on the inner, and so it gives me plenty to curve off, because I've got to put in allowance to where the windows start is to where the curve is, because the biggest curve is here. There's a very slight curve on the front, so it just needs a strip down the inside to keep it together. or a couple of thin strips I've got to cut. But I don't know whether it's me, but in Star Wars, when they when you first see the two-legged walker, I can't remember what it's called, not the big attack, the four-legged one, but the two-legged walker, did they base the main body on a Bedford QLT? Because it does look that sort of shape. Joking aside, when I do start assembling it, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare, because I've got to glue it and let it set overnight at the top to this point here, and then once that's done, then I've got to weld it to this point here, and then once that's solid and then reinforced on the inside, then I can do the last curve down to the front. But sort of cutting it out, it's not too bad, and with a bit of plastic strengthening on the inside, that will pull nicely flat, and then the rest will just build on. But this completes at this stage just the basic cab construction.